Of all the dictators that this lovely continent of Africa has had to endure, none can surpass the eccentric Jean-Bédel Bokassa, who was the president of the Central African Republic. In December of 1979, Bokassa proclaimed himself the emperor of his country and changed his title to Emperor Bokassa I. He also changed the name of his country from the Central African Republic to the Central African Empire. He was crowned a year later in a coronation that emulated that of his personal icon, Napoleon I. This lavish coronation ceremony would cost more than $20 million, which was a third of his country's budget and all of the aid money that the country got from France. It is estimated that Bokassa fathered 54 children by various lovers, including Romanian, Tunisian, Gabonese, French, Vietnamese, and Belgian ladies. As has been a common pattern we are seeing here on African Biographics, Bokassa rose to power after a coup in 1965, and he would be removed, as you have probably guessed by now, via another coup. This episode profiles Jean-Bédel Bokassa, the self-styled Emperor of the Central African Republic. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and to click the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any new uploads that come out every Monday and Friday. Jean-Bédel Bokassa was born in the then French Equatorial Africa, which is now the Central African Republic, on the 22nd of February 1921. The young Bokassa had a rather tragic childhood. His father, who was a village chief of the Mbaka people, was murdered in November of 1927 for refusing to provide labor from his village as was required under the French colonial rule. A week later, his mother committed suicide and Bokassa, then aged 6, became an orphan. He was taken in by missionaries who raised him until he joined the French colonial army in 1939. He distinguished himself in the French conflict in Indochina, and by 1961 he had achieved the rank of captain in the army. After the Central African Republic gained independence, Bokassa would help to establish its army. Jean-Bédel Bokassa was also a cousin of the then President David Dacko. Due to his relationship with Dacko and experience abroad in the French military, Bokassa was able to quickly rise through the ranks of the new National Army, becoming the Central African Army's first colonel on the 1st of December 1964. Bokassa sought recognition for his status as a leader of the army. He frequently appeared in public wearing all of his military decorations. He often sat next to the president to display his importance in the government. Despite the number of coups d'etats that were happening in Africa at that time, President Dacko publicly dismissed the likelihood that Bokassa would try to topple him from power. At one official dinner, he would say, "Colonel Bokassa only wants to collect medals and he's too stupid to pull off a coup d'etat." Boy oh boy, was he wrong. On the 31st of December 1965, Bokassa used his power as supreme military commander to overthrow Dacko. He declared himself president of the republic the following day. Upon taking over, he made promises that his government would hold elections in the near future and a new constitution would be written. Guess what? None of these promises ever came to fruition. In the beginning, he spearheaded a number of reforms in an effort to develop the Central African Republic. He sought to promote economic development with Operation Bokassa, a national economic plan that created huge nationalized farms and industries. The plan would die an early death because of poor management. During his rule, the country quickly descended into a dictatorship. There were some outrageous policies that were put in place. Some of these included forcing men and women aged between 18 to 55 years to provide proof that they had jobs. Failure to do so would result in a fine or imprisonment. Loitering and begging were also banned. Bokassa also formed a morality brigade to monitor bars and dance halls. In the year of 1971, Bokassa promoted himself to full general, and on the 4th of March 1972, he went on to declare himself the president for life. His political opponents were executed and the national economy was plundered to sustain his extravagant personal lifestyle. Bokassa had a string of high-value properties in France, including a mansion in Paris and the city of Nice. The government's finances were a mess. The budget was ignored and the government workers were only paid occasionally when there was leftover money from financing Bokassa's lifestyle. The self-styled emperor was also a Casanova of some sort. He had 17 official wives, many mistresses, and 55 children. I know at this point Bokassa is starting to sound like a figment of my imagination or a character from some movie, but guys, I'm not making any of this up. In December of 1976, Bokassa would name himself emperor instead of president. He assumed the title Emperor Bokassa I and changed the name of his country to the Central African Empire. He was crowned a year later. The enthronement, which was held on the 4th of December 1977, was modeled on the coronation of Napoleon as the Emperor of the French. This coronation ceremony lasted for 2 days. The crown and scepter alone were made in Paris and cost $5 million. During this coronation, Jean-Bédel Bokassa sat on a 2-ton throne modeled in the shape of a large eagle made from solid gold. 60 brand new Mercedes got shipped from Germany to Cameroon and then flown 740 miles over the forest to Bangui, the capital. 64,000 bottles of wine, including 24,000 bottles of top vintage champagne, whose names I can't pronounce, were also bought for this coronation. This lavish ceremony would cost more than $20 million, 1/3 of the Central African Empire's annual budget, and all of the aid money that country got from France that year. Curiously, Idi Amin of Uganda, Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire, and Omar Bongo of Gabon, who were friends with the eccentric military man, declined to attend the coronation. Bokassa attempted to justify his actions by claiming that creating a monarchy would help Central Africa stand out from the rest of the continent and earn the world's respect. All of this happened because Bokassa had powerful protectors and friends, and in this case the friend being France. This was during the Cold War, and many countries were battling to exert influence on the world scene. That is why France would tolerate and entertain a man of Bokassa's caliber. The same could be said for Mobutu Sese Seko, who ruled the then Zaire, which is now the DRC, for over 3 decades. One day we'll cover Mobutu Sese Seko's story. I am going at length to explain the geopolitical dynamics of this time and why it came as no surprise that although most of the world condemned Bokassa's proclamation to being emperor, the coronation was backed by this French president, whose name I can't pronounce. The ceremony was attended by the French minister responsible for African policy, Robert Calais. Calais gave the dictator an authentic saber dating back to the times of Napoleon as a gift from the French president. Mindful of its own interest in the Central African Republic, France tolerated the excesses of Bokassa and his family. This gave Bokassa the confidence to flaunt his wealth, which as time passed became highly excessive, contrasting greatly with the country's status as one of the poorest in the world. With Bokassa, the straw that broke the camel's back was a scandal involving school uniforms. In 1979, the emperor passed a law that forced school children to wear a new type of uniform. Fun fact, this uniform was manufactured by a company owned by Bokassa's family. The students and their teachers either didn't like the design of these new school uniforms or hated the idea of having to pay extra money to replace their current ones, so they went to the streets to protest. This protest was brutally squashed by the army. It is reported that the kids were rounded up and thrown in jail. One group of about 30 students was put into a cell meant for one person. As a result, many of them suffocated to death. Over 100 children were massacred while incarcerated. International organizations and foreign governments responded by condemning Bokassa for the murders, and they quickly cut off foreign aid to this nation. While he had traveled to Libya to seek for financial support, the French orchestrated another coup, which returned David Dacko to power as the Central African Republic's president in September of 1979. Bokassa then went into exile, first traveling to the Ivory Coast but later settling in France. He was sentenced in absentia to death in 1980, but he surprised everyone by choosing to return to the Central African Republic in 1986. Upon his return, he was arrested and put on trial, and in 1987, he was found guilty of the murders of the school children as well as other crimes. Bokassa's sentence was then commuted to 20 years in prison, and then he was freed in September of 1993. He died in 1996 in Bangui, the capital of the Central African Republic. Bokassa's story is a fascinating one because you see the clear distinction between him and the life that Thomas Sankara led. If you remember from the Thomas Sankara episode, Sankara was a man who chose to put the needs of his country before his own needs. But I'm sure you've seen that Jean-Bédel Bokassa was the extreme opposite. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about Jean-Bédel Bokassa. Don't forget to like and share the video if you enjoy it. This has been today's episode of African Biographics. Until next time, cheers. Have a good one.